Thank you for being here today. I wanted to talk about the warrior and the child today. So maybe this talk is meant for you. When we walk this path, we come across many different aspects, and we'll pick and choose certain aspects that feel right for us. How to be able to walk the path in the highest, brightest way possible. And today I'd like to speak to you about two aspects that you may choose to use on your path. One is the warrior and one is the child. When I think of the aspect of a warrior, I think of someone that gets shit done, someone that doesn't give a damn, and someone that has a sense of purpose, of accomplishing and serving eternity for the highest good. And that means a lot of dedication, that means a lot of courage, and also a ability to accomplish things in a present moment awareness that's calm and centered. And the aspect of a child, I feel, has the notions of playfulness, curiosity, a huge creative imagination of anything is possible, and a little bit different present moment awareness in such that they're very engaged and fully engaged in whatever they're doing right now. And whether that is upsetting or whether that's joyful, it's all consuming for them in that moment right now. And when that moment passes, so does that emotion, that feeling more or less. And then they move on to the next thing. And so in some ways, it's almost like they have a beginner's mind, where in every situation they approach, it's a clean slate they come to it at. So when we go through this path, we tend to pick and choose these certain aspects. And for today, speaking about the warrior and child, we may pick up the warrior aspect and use that wholeheartedly and completely for work, career, maybe our spiritual practice even. Sometimes we'll use that aspect for the whole thing in all other areas of our life. And what I like to put out there as a suggestion is that we can mix it up. We can have different aspects, not just for different areas of our life, but we can have different aspects happening simultaneously in every situation. The way I would visually imagine that, to give you kind of a metaphor, would be in Aikido, a form of martial arts, where in a situation where you're maybe having multiple attackers come at you, sometimes we have a tendency to use maybe one arm, maybe our right arm specifically, because maybe that's our dominant hand and maybe that's what we're used to using. So we tend to make a lot of use on our right arm, and maybe looking at the right arm as a sword, we're using the right sword. But over time, it either is not efficient in managing multiple attackers, or number two, it gets fatigued. Your right arm sword hand gets fatigued. So, how to remember in those moments that you also have your left hand that also can be a sword, and that you can use both simultaneously to manage the multiple attackers that are occurring in this specific situation. And you'll notice that when you have two swords going, obviously you have to be slightly adept at the first initial sword use so that your swords don't cross and somehow backfire onto you. But you're able to use both of those swords congruently and together in such a way where they're supporting the other. One is supporting the other, allowing you to use and utilize your whole system instead of maybe using one part of your system and not churning out the efficiency that you may wish to have. So, in this specific day and age, the warrior aspect is probably an intelligent aspect to use on this path so that you're able to do your practice and grow yourself in such a way that's meant for you. But at the same time, to also allow the aspect of the child to come in and play and laugh at things that maybe aren't working out no matter how much you're trying to insert and force your will upon it. Perfect example was on our latest retreat. We went to Tahoe, and structurally, I had created this itinerary and this schedule for all the participants. It was, thank you. It was a good schedule, but but then when we arrived to the location, it was apparent that trying to force this schedule to happen, trying to make it happen, was really going to be about fitting a square peg in a round hole. And so to be able to draw upon the child aspect in the practice and to completely just let it go and be able to come to Lake Tahoe and let ourselves just be in this playground and allow whatever was to arise to happen and let the event run its own course, if you will. And that lesson that I took away from that retreat was something that has stayed with me, especially now moving forward in kind of a busy season for work, that we can plan and schedule and coordinate things in our lives to the nth degree till everything is perfect. And to also remember that at the moment of implementation, or maybe as you begin the whole process of that schedule and putting it into work, that you have the ability to completely let it go. And let it go in such a way where there's no more attachment to it and or an aversion to it. You see people suffering so much out there because they have to have their schedule or their routines or their appointments a certain way because of what is scheduled for them that day. Of course, the schedule brings structure and it makes our systems and our ego feel comfortable and safe. But at the same time, to be able to move through the day with that flavor of that child aspect, that you can completely let it all go and have your day flip-flop on itself, turned 180 degrees, and it will still be a wonderful, beautiful day. You see the suffering that people have with regards to that attachment to how things need to be or how they've structured it. And it can be considered an attachment with how they feel it needs to be that way, and or an aversion to the unknown and or to change. Any questions on that? Yes.
Seem to work in the days.
Towards the end of the day, how to cultivate.
Yeah. That's change.
Yeah. Yeah. The tide to come in. So, just to clarify your question, you're wondering in the evening times after you've completed your work day, how to bring about the aspect of the child more, the warrior more, or mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To have that time to sit? Yeah. Mm.
Working with that resistance.
Mm.
And
Mm.
To laugh about it now, it's the best thing to do.
That's a great place to start.
It's maybe a fear of it being too much.
Too much meditation? Too much?
Yeah, I just, how could that be?
No, I understand. It's a great question. Wondering.
Working through that. Sounds like it's just serious.
I think you may have just hit the nail on the head.
Is that it?
I think so. Well, I imagine when you're asking this question with regards to, infusing your practice in the evening time after a full days of work or whatever your day has been filled with. And I think of the child aspect, and you're telling it that it has to, eat its vegetables and dinner by 5, and then you have it take its bath and make sure it's in bed by 8, and that's curfew hour, and the child's like, I don't want to, and it's bucking the whole structural aspect, the whole very serious warrior side. I don't know if I would have any specific suggestions, but just if you were to put yourself in the shoes of that child, how would you speak to it? How would you play with it, entice it in order to have the evening routine and the schedule and the structure be fun? How can you make it enjoyable? I think of one of my friends where their children has to eat their dinner at a certain appointed time. But then after having dinner, having eaten everything they were given, vegetables and all sorts of stuff that maybe they didn't want to eat, they get ice cream. So ice cream is given to them as their treat, in finishing their dinner. And you're welcome to give your child ice cream, but some sort of ice cream, whatever it is that you may feel that you enjoy, um, that can placate it enough. We play this interesting game with our different aspects, um, so that each one of them is heard and each one of them is attended to while we live this life. Very interesting. Does that help?
I'll work on it. I will.
Great. I find myself, as I get older, which I'm really not that old, but I feel as I get older, I'll have my routines and schedules for the daytime to the evening time. And sometimes when I feel like it has to get changed, there's a rebellion inside of me. But to have the awareness and the mindfulness to know that, oh, okay, I've gotten clearly attached to that being that way, to going to yoga class at the 6 o'clock hour to be with this specific teacher. It's like, oh, well, there's a, 7:30 class I can go to. And I don't have to rush around and feel like I'm rushing home from work to then just get out the door. Or there are days when I have class and the husband says, well, did you want to go get dinner instead of go to class? Oh, okay. We'll do dinner instead. Have that flexibility. Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions? Let's meditate. The warrior and the child. Something overarching both of those aspects and something to always be cultivating is a killer sense of humor. Laughter and having a sense of humor about life and all its nuances and oddities allow us for a moment to be able to see the dance and play of eternity. It's almost like when we laugh and have a sense of humor about what's going on in our lives, whether it's going well or whether it's going wrong, you're almost able to step out of it for a moment and kind of have a bird's eye view to see the beauty of it all. So I encourage lots of laughter. And to remember that even though we have a warrior's mission in this life, that we can play and we can have fun as well. So thank you for being here today.